So hello everybody, this is Bhante, Joe here, and I'm just here at the Pilikutu forest, and I've come back here after almost 5 months, and it's a very lovely place to be, very nice to be back. So I thought to record a short Owada for the internet, so I thought that could start with maybe just a little meditation, so can lean forward a little bit and arch the spine, and look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And can focus in on the breath, can know when it's coming in, and know when it's going out. If we breathe in a long breath, can just know, I'm breathing in a long breath. And if we breathe in a short breath, can just know, I'm breathing in a short breath. And can just pose the question in the mind. What would be a really comfortable way to breathe right now? And then one can just let the body respond on its own. And if the mind wanders off to the past or the future, you can just bring it back to the present moment, to the breath. And before we finish meditating, can spread thoughts of goodwill, wishing may all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond. in every dimension. May all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. And can open our eyes and do a short awada for the internet. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. So hope that everybody's keeping well wherever it might be, and has been nice to come back down here after a long time. There's a lot of features of this particular place that are really nice for me. One is that they have these really large hot rocks, or these large rocks. They're heated by the sun all day, so at nighttime they become nice and warm and easy to sit on or easy to sleep on. So you can see there's kind of pretty big rocks, and this rock actually extends pretty far, so that's really nice. Also, the climate is quite warm here, which is nice for me. And also the water in this area, although the climate is hot, the water in this area is pure, it's clean and good to drink. And so there's that and other features too, which I like about this place, which makes this place a nice place to stay for me. And so sometimes when one is practicing, there's these poles that one has to navigate between. Sometimes when one is practicing and there's kind of quite a lot of discomfort, because of the discomfort, sometimes one feels like one is making progress. And this may be the case. Actually, there's types of discomfort that come when a person is basically wearing away at bad habits. I was chatting with somebody just yesterday, and was discussing about bringing the mind. We were discussing about bringing the mind back during meditation, and or even outside of meditation. And one of the things that can make it difficult to bring the mind back is that whatever object the mind launches out to and thinks about, it's often an object that has some attraction to it. Even the ones that are worrying, there's some attraction to them. There's some reason why one desires to go and think about those objects rather than just stay with the feeling of the breath, or just stay with whatever contemplation it is one's doing. So when one pulls the mind back from these things, there's a certain amount of discomfort that arises. And this discomfort, actually, it is a certain sign of progress. It's kind of they call it the wearing away of defilements, a burning away of defilements to a certain extent through not feeding them. And it's through not feeding them in this way that one gains more space to grow in one's meditation practice. So there is this kind of type of discomfort that can come not just from pulling the mind back, but making lifestyle changes. One kind of makes changes in the way that one speaks. One makes changes in the way that one lives or works if one's a lay person. One makes changes in the associations one has, or the way that one associates with people. And in making these changes, one can make these changes in such a way that they're in line with the Dhamma, and one is bringing one's lifestyle, the way that one lives, more and more in line with the Dhamma. In this case, there can be this feeling of discomfort that arises, and one no longer has the supports of whatever negative thing it was that one was leaning on before. So there's this element of discomfort that can arise. And on the flip side, when one feels like one is not making much progress, sometimes one can feel relatively comfortable, relatively easy, relatively at ease. It's kind of doing the same things that one did before, kind of hanging out with, talking in the same way that one did before, spending the same amount of time meditating that one did before. And not doing these things in such a way that they're growing incrementally, but just doing them in such a way that it's like one is spinning one's wheels. When one is spinning one's wheels, one isn't kind of going forward really, or having any discomfort so much from restraining oneself. It's not necessarily like a really, really uncomfortable feeling. Uncomfortable in the sense that one isn't progressing. That's maybe a better way to put it. That can be very uncomfortable, but uncomfortable in the sense that there isn't this pain in the mind from not having the things that it's used to lean on. So one of the tricky things about this is that if one starts practicing and keeps getting used to this feeling of restraining oneself from things and then feeling some discomfort, there are actually certain ways that one can practice in which one will feel more and more comfortable. So in other words, there's sometimes feelings of comfort that come with doing things that are a measure of progress, and there's sometimes feelings of discomfort that come from doing things that are a measure of progress. And the flip side is true as well. There's sometimes feelings of discomfort that come from doing things that are a measure of going backwards. And there's sometimes feelings of comfort that come from doing things that are an indication that are leading one backwards. So what one has to do is basically develop this kind of skill in determining when it is that one's moving forward and when it is that one's moving backwards. This is something that one has to learn oneself by observing the mind. But there can be these kind of pitfalls when one is practicing, in that in whatever way one is used to moving forward and whatever feelings one usually has when one is moving forward. Classically they break practice up into the dukkha patipada and sukha patipada. And even more classically, these are supposed to be attributed to people with different personal characteristics. So people who are like hating type people, they have anger arise easily. They are people who incline more towards the vipassana type meditation topics, like contemplation of impermanence or low-singness of the body and these kind of things. But they are also people who follow that path. That path is called a dukkha patipada, a painful path. And there's people who follow what they call a sukha patipada more. And it's these are people who really incline towards more pleasant feelings. They're supposed to be people who are like the faith type, or have faith as a prominent characteristic. And these kind of people, sometimes people incline more towards sensuality, then they like to go the route of developing the jhanas more strongly and vipassana less. So in whatever way a person's personality is, they get used to they can get used to progressing along the particular path that they're used to, and kind of having the types of feelings as an indicator that they're progressing. But the tricky thing about this is that there's, whatever one's personal characteristics, these things are not black and white, that one is either only going dukkha patipada or either completely going sukha patipada. It's there will always need to be a certain mix there. But in any event, the tricky thing is that one gets used to going along in this way, whether it's through feeling that one is progressing through painful feelings or feeling that one is progressing through pleasant feelings. And then it becomes very difficult to recognize when a feeling to the opposite comes that's a sign of progress. So if one is used to putting forth effort, gritting one's teeth, and gets used to advancing in that way, sometimes there can be these beneficial things that come, and one shies away from them, even though they're beneficial. Even though they're things that are signs of moving forward on the path. And similarly, one gets used to having these kind of pleasant experiences. One can shy away from things that are painful, but that are actually signs of progress on the path. So what one will tend to find is that as one kind of goes along practicing, in whatever way one practices, there can come points where in practicing the usual way and trying to go for either more pain or more pleasure, more problems come. And this is a sign that the solution lies in the other direction. So oftentimes young monks, they will actually sometimes prefer to stay in really difficult, really unpleasant environments. They're young and their bodies are quite strong, and shy away from environments that might seem more pleasant. But one of the highest blessings is actually living in these places of suitable kind. So if one finds a place where one's mind feels like it fits well, where the temperature is good for one's body and one's health, where these various things are good for one's body and one's health, then these are a support for meditation. It's not something that's necessarily bad. So it can sound like something simple to say, but these kind of elements that one needs to grab onto to move forward, they can be tricky to see, especially if one is used to going along a particular path, used to going along a path where one is feeling feelings of suffering and feelings of progress. Or on the other end, used to going along a path where one is feeling feelings of pleasure and feelings of progress. In this case, it can become difficult to recognize the opposite. So the Buddhist path is always something where one has to extend oneself. And sometimes one does this by making mistakes. But one of these ways in which one has to extend oneself is to recognize signs of progress, whether they're accompanied by feeling that's painful or whether they're accompanied by feeling that's pleasant. Because this is what we're after when we meditate, is to try to move forward in such a way that our wholesome qualities increase and our unwholesome qualities diminish, no matter what type of feeling they're accompanied by. Okay, so I think leave that for reflection, and wishing everybody all the blessings of Dhamma practice.